All right. What is going on? What is up? Yes, we are here. I am finally before lock, uh, getting a stream in. So I'm probably gonna be on for a half hour. I'll probably just go to 7:30. But yeah, ask me any questions you want. Maybe we'll go longer. If you watch me, you know that I will probably be on until 8:30 by the end of this whole thing. So let me just get the stream up on my other laptop over here, um, and then I will get going. So 1 second, please. If you're dropping in, if you're gonna ask any questions, I will be there in 1 second. And we are finding this live stream, and then we're good to go. Yes, I'm just getting the chat up. So yeah, ask any questions that you might have. Drop them in. I'll be able to see them in just a second. We can get this sheet up if you guys want. And live now. Perfect. Yeah, I didn't change the cover photo or anything. Live chat, same thing as this morning while I was uploading the video. It's fine. Didn't really feel like doing it. So yeah, let me know how the quality looks first of all. Let me know if that all looks good. I am streaming from my apartment, which I usually don't. I usually stream on my campus, Penn State, and it has a lot better Wi-Fi. So let me know how everything looks and sounds. I do have a fan on, so that might mess up some of the sounding. So yeah, drop down any questions that you do have before the slate starts. I'm here to chat about the slate. The day has gone on. I have broken down into the research a bit more, and there are some things that I do like. There's some lineups that I really like, although it uses 100% of the salary, and that's obviously not great in a two-game slate. So playing around with some lineups, some things look nice, obviously in cash. Using all this salary, whatever it might be, is fine. If you're playing 50-50s, it's probably still fine. Tournaments, though, when you're using 100% of your salary, the odds of getting a unique lineup are much harder. But again, you can build your lineups. You can stack certain players. You can play players who in the regular season, on a bigger slate, it doesn't feel great correlating them, i.e. Steph and KD, i.e. Chris Paul and James Harden. Things of that nature. Other things that you can do to be different is putting players, not having one true center in your lineup, right? So a guy who's only center eligible, putting a power forward / center eligible guy in your center position and nothing else. And maybe a guy who's not as commonly put in that spot. These are ways to, so for example, a Nikola Mirotic. If you're somebody who wants to play him today, you put him in your center spot. You can be damned well that you're probably going to have a very unique lineup because most people will be putting him in the forward spots, maybe even the utility spot. So that's a way to get a unique lineup by still spending a lot of money. I do think that that's fine. So yeah, looks good. I usually go balanced, but very tempted to stuff Harden and Giannis into a lineup. Yeah, I think so. Here's the thing. I talked about it this morning. I'm not sure if you caught my video. Elephant, I'll call you. I don't know how to say malevolent elephant, whatever your name is. It's a hell of a name. So, yeah, I said this earlier. I think Harden, for me right now, and it's no secret, he should be one of the highest owned players in the slate on a two-game slate. He grades out the best. He grades out projected right now, and we can go and look at it. Projected for 62.61 fantasy points right now for me. And look, he's $10,100 in the regular season, and I get it. These two-game slates, they're lowering a lot of salaries. They're trying to make it a little bit more, at least that's what it seems, a little bit more affordable at the top end, because there's a lot less value on every single night. Every given night, there's a lot less value. Although we do have some decent value tonight and some really, in terms of minutes, some good value, and it all really stems from Milwaukee for the most part. But yeah, Harden at 10-1 is way too cheap. $10,000 Giannis is way too cheap. But let's not take in a vacuum, right? But let's not forget what the rest of the slate looks like. The rest of the slate is looking like right now $9,100 Kevin Durant, who grades out very similar to Harden, or not Harden, very similar to Giannis for me. I do not think Giannis is going to score 37 or 40 fantasy points once again. He has a ceiling, yes, in the high 60s. And in this matchup, it's probably closer to the low to mid 60s. And in this matchup, I have him projected for around 56 fantasy points. I have Harden projected for right around there as well, with 53 at the beginning of the day. And as the day went on, I changed some of my rates up. I have now Harden, or I keep saying Harden, I have now KD projected for around 55. Harden's around 62.61. And you have Giannis a little bit more than KD at around 57. So stuffing in Giannis and KD, or stuffing in Giannis and Harden, it's fine. I think it's fine, Elephant. There's nothing that from where I'm sitting says, okay, that's bad. The only thing is, do you get the value, and does your value hit? And the thing is, the pieces surrounding Giannis in terms of paying up, whether it be Steph, who's super cheap, whether it be playoff Kyrie, or whether it be KD, who's just been on an absolute tear, actually shooting 20-plus shots a game now after he said, I'm KD, I don't do that. Is it any of those guys? I think that one of them will be getting there at a higher clip than what Giannis's price point indicates, if that makes sense. I think saving the money makes more sense if you run this thing out 100 times. I think the far majority of the time, probably 60 to 65% of the time, another one of those three guys is in the winning lineup more so than Giannis, including Harden, you could say. So another one of those, two of those four guys outside of Giannis is needed. So that was a long-winded answer, but I like it. I think it's going to be contrarian. Giannis by far, maybe not by far, maybe by like 10 percentage points in ownership, he should be the lowest owned of those top five guys. You're going to get low ownership on a guy like Kyrie probably next, but you're going to get high ownership on very cheap Steph, which Steph was $8,200, I believe, right? $8,200 a couple of days ago in the last game. And then I think the game before that, he was still $8,200. He went down to $7,900. Look, $300 is a big difference, you can say. But if he went from 85 to 82, not many people would notice it. It's the fact that he crossed an even number, right? An even 8,000. Now he's 7,900. So just like when an item is $9.99 instead of $10 in a store, it seems like he's super cheap. The ownership will flock to that. It usually does. I'm fine going there because I think he is super cheap. I have him projected for around 47 fantasy points today. And here's the thing, with medium projections, if Steph is getting it, it's likely that it impacts KD in the same way around, but not every single game. They can both go for 50 fantasy points in a given game, but it's unlikely. So yes, Steph should have higher ownership. KD's just been on an absolute tear, and at 9,100, he is probably $900 too cheap. He should probably be 10K based on the way he's playing, or at least closer, 97, 9,800. So yeah, KD is going to have high ownership, and then obviously Harden, at least in my opinion, will have super high ownership. Felt the need to put both in at least one lineup because whenever I completely fade a play like that, it tends to bite me in the ass, says John. Yeah, right? And I mean, it tends to bite you in the ass, right? And that's just the way it is. When you're looking at either my content, Awesome's content, great content out there, I'm sure Fast Eddie Fear right now is live. Whatever content you're looking at, yeah, a lot of the times they're going to herd to one viewpoint, and it usually leads to similar lineup constructions. And then just the majority of the public and the majority of people who watch content are going to end up going that way. And it makes sense, right? Usually the market is becoming very efficient in DFS, especially NBA DFS, where even though there is late news, and if it's not within 5 minutes before lock, you usually don't gain an edge. Maybe 10 minutes before lock is the barrier. But it's really hard, what I'm trying to say is, it's really hard to gain an edge. And the best way to gain an edge is usually to fade favorable plays, right? A guy like Steph today at 7,900 is extremely favorable. I'm not saying fade him in all your lineups, but I'm saying getting to a Giannis and Harden lineup, especially when Giannis is going to be under-owned and underappreciated, which he has been once in this postseason, and he went for 67 fantasy points in like 32 minutes. Again, that's a much tougher matchup today, but there's no reason he can't have a ceiling-type game in this matchup. The mid-range Celtics players always feel like a blind gamble to me. Yeah, John, they have been like all year, right? And then when Kyrie is out in the regular season, they just all become a crapshoot because none of them are ever a priority during the regular season. It's usually Kyrie and it's usually Horford that you're trying to get a priority, unless there's a weird pricing thing where Tatum drops to below 5 or below 6K, which again, he on this slate he is 5,500. So what do you have today? You have Tatum at 5,500. You have $4,800 Jaylen Brown, I believe, and then you have $4,200 a guy in Marcus Morris, which I just don't understand Draftkings pricing here. I don't know if the algorithm is lagging behind today, or I don't know if that's just the way that they structured it, but Marcus Morris was played 30 minutes off the bench, and then he drew the start, which is something that we kind of projected. He drew the start, played 30 minutes. He's a much better, more physical defender for a guy like Giannis and trying to defend that position and that type of player, and he played 30 minutes again. And that game blew out. So I imagine Marcus Morris closes. So Marcus Morris's ceiling in minutes is probably closer to 32 to 34 range if the game stays close. I feel good about him playing 32 minutes today, and he's $4,200. The price came down $200. So, I mean, if we're talking about all the value in Boston, I think the cheapest end of it at Marcus Morris is the best play. I don't think you have to try and outthink yourself there. And if it doesn't work out tonight and he scores 18 fantasy points and he plays 30 minutes, then that's just a bad game. That's just you catching one of his worst or variants on the bad end, right? But on average, tonight, if the game stays close, he should play 32 minutes and he should be decently productive. He's a much more productive player than a guy like Aaron Baines, who was starting for them. And then you get to Jaylen Brown, 4,800. I still prefer, even though it's a different position, although I think Jaylen Brown is a forward-eligible spot. Small forward. I do prefer Marcus Morris to Jaylen Brown. Look, Marcus Morris is closer to the basket. Jaylen Brown starting at the shooting guard. We know, or at least you should know, maybe you don't, the shooting guard position is dreadful. in terms of just fantasy overall. In terms of relative to the other positions, overall scoring, it's dreadful. Harden, obviously a shooting guard, so he's an outlier, but he controls that offense much more, or at least similar to how Chris Paul does, bringing up the ball, things like that. But shooting guard in general, especially for spot-up shooters, which Jaylen Brown will create his own shot. He'll get peripherals, so he's not the same type of player, but he's still further away from the basket. Him getting easy rebounds like Morris is not as realistic. Him getting easier block upsides and just easier double-double upsides, it's not as realistic as Morris. And then you get to Jason Tatum, who's 5,500. Obviously, he has a ceiling, but what is his ceiling in this matchup in the playoffs where you're going to get Kyrie being out there for, in a game that's close, probably 36 to 38 minutes? I think his ceiling's 40. Like, I don't think his ceiling goes much higher than that. Sure, he can shoot lights out. He can shoot 80% tonight, and then his ceiling's 45. So maybe that's where his ceiling really is. 45 seems high. But yeah, I think 5,500 is fine, and I think it's something that I want to get to. But in the lineups that I'm building, it's tough for me to get to that 5,500 range because there's that next tier above him and the tier below him that I'm targeting pretty heavy, whether it be the Marcus Morris, the PJ Tuckers below him, or all the way down to Miritix, or even some of those shooting guards if you want to take a stab. I saw Sterling Brown was a game-time decision, things like that. I don't know how many people are watching this right now. I'm not sure if anybody can see the live count, but yeah, let me know. Let me know how many people are in here so I can make sure I'm answering everybody's questions. Agreed. I've got him locked in. It's Tatum that worries me, even with the low price. Yeah, John, I think that makes sense. Look, $5,500 Tatum is too cheap, right? But let's just consider that it's the playoffs. You're going to get Kyrie. Once again, last game, a lot of people are going to look at the minutes and they're going to just jump to conclusions that is what the minutes will be in this series. It's probably not. That game, 3 minutes, 4 minutes left, a lot of guys got blowout round. Tim Frazier was in the game, right? For the most part, the starters weren't playing the last 3 or 4 minutes, and obviously in a close game in the playoffs, those guys are going to close the game out. So Kyrie playing 36 to 38 minutes, that hurts Tatum. That hurts most of the guys on this team outside of maybe Horford. Horford might actually get a little bit of benefit from Kyrie playing out there, whether it's pick and roll and then Kyrie drives and Horford's wide open for a three. We've seen it so many times. Things like that. So yeah, Tatum at 5,500, again, too cheap. If this guy dropped to 5,200, it would be a criminal offense because I believe he gets to 30 a favorable amount of the time in this matchup. But I can't get there. And I'm actually not mad that I'm not getting there. Just, I mean, in terms of the one lineup and these single entries that I'm playing, I'm not mad about it. So if you don't get to Tatum, don't feel like, oh, I have to get Tatum and he's a lock. I don't think he is. If he's a guy who lands in your lineup with the second or last spot, fine, right? It's a good play at that price point. But I think he projects for probably around like 30 fantasy points today. Most days. Let's see what I have him projected for, actually. Because I think that's actually high, me saying 30. So yeah, I have him projected for 32 fantasy points. So that actually makes him a really good play. But I don't think I have into account yet, and I don't. So I should have changed this. So that'll get him at 30.34. I didn't update just the rates for him going up against Middleton for a good amount of that game. Nothing official yet on Aaron Baines, though. Indicates are that he'll likely play Tuesday. We'll update. That's what Fantasy Lab says. I doubt he's starting. He played, 12 minutes off the bench. I think there was an injury, so he'll probably get closer to 15. I don't think he's in play. What's going on, Raz? It says 12. John, what do you mean by 12? It says 12. In a vacuum, do you prefer PJ Tucker or Morris in a GPP, Draftkings? I agree with you about Morris, but his ownership will be much higher. I like Morris better for cash. I like Morris better in both spots, but I do like both. Look, they're $100 difference, right? PJ Tucker came out in the first game. And here's the thing. Actually, I would have to see the ownership numbers. Do we know what the ownership numbers are? Do we have a projection anywhere, Elephant? I don't. I don't do my own ownership projections, and I don't really subscribe to any sites that I trust for the most part for those, or that I look at and really make a decision off of. But Tucker and Morris is close, right? And they're both going to start at the 4 most likely today. And Tucker's probably going to play, on average, 6 more minutes to 8 more minutes more, probably close to 40. Look, Kevin Durant's playing 42 minutes a game in the series, or at least in the playoffs he's been playing over 40 minutes the last 4 or 5 games. So, yeah, Tucker's going to be out there defending him. That's not a great matchup on the other end either for Tucker. This is a different series. Now, I think Eric Gordon going off is going to, surely lower Tucker's ownership, and Gordon's price maybe doesn't even make his increase. I still prefer Morris there, but I do like both. And I have both projected for around 26 fantasy points today. It's really close for me. Yeah. And that's what Morris only at 30. So I have Morris projected for 25.51. and I have PJ Tucker projected for about 24. So they're about a point apart, but that's Morris only at 30 minutes. If we actually project him to close that game out, which I would, and you say he plays 32 today, now he's getting closer to 27 minutes. And that's with Tucker at 40. Tucker's rates actually should come up, though. They're really close. So Tucker is at 27.32, and Morris is at 27.21. So it's a toss-up there. So it's whichever one you like. So when it becomes a toss-up, yeah, in cash, take the guy you feel more confident about. But in tournaments, take the guy who's lower owned. I think the bigger ceiling, I think their ceilings are similar too, honestly. Yeah, take the lower owned guy. That's a good point. PJ is all the way up if those corner threes drop. Yeah. If he's going to hit corner threes, or he's going to have the opportunity to. And especially the thing that's nice is you have a guy like Chris Paul who will drive, but you obviously have Harden who's going to drive. And now Harden most of the time wants to take his shot or draw that contact, but there's going to be kick opportunities like there is every single game for PJ Tucker. It's a matter of if he hits them. The difference between him scoring 20 fantasy points in a game and 30 is if he hits his 2-3 threes on that day, right? People watching live, now 14. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's low, but it makes sense with Awesemo being live. Yeah, I'm only going to probably stay on until 7:30. Aaron Baines available to play. Okay, there you go. I'm only going to stay until 7:30 because then I got to just run some of my lineups before the lock starts. And I could do that on my other laptop, but there's no need for you to just watch me sit here. So I want to answer anybody's questions who did come in. Rivers defense needed tonight. Marcellus Larkin. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Rivers defense is needed tonight. I don't know why it would be for the most part. You're going to get Harden playing about 40 minutes tonight. You're going to get Chris Paul. If he didn't get ejected last game, he would have played about 38, 39. So both of those guys in a close game tonight likely play close to 40 minutes. I project Chris Paul, if the game stays close down the stretch, he's going to play 40 minutes, his first time, I believe, this season, touching 40. So if those guys are playing 40 minutes, that's the only people that Austin Rivers is coming in for. He's only going in at the guard. He's not playing small forward tonight. He's not playing anything else, right? He's not playing in the big spots. So that's 16 minutes between Harden and Paul off the bench. Now, let's just say that give or take 1 or 2 minutes. So let's just say there's 18 minutes off the bench for the guard position tonight. Yeah, Rivers should soak up a good amount of those, right? And he should soak up maybe all of those minutes off the bench, depending on how they do these rotations. So I believe Rivers, though, plays around 16 minutes tonight, and I don't think they need his defense. He's an offensive liability. He's fine on defense, but when you have guys like Chris Paul, fine defender, James Harden going to be out there just for scoring opportunities. You got Eric Gordon out there. He plays defense. You got PJ Tucker out there. He plays defense. I'm not sure that they're dying for Austin Rivers to get more minutes because it's going to be coming at the expense of Chris Paul or James Harden. It's just not. It's not going to happen. What do we do with Nene? He could easily wind up being a DMP. He got 14 minutes last game and put up 18 DK points. Yeah, I don't want any Nene. Unless something changes, I don't want any Nene. So 27 minutes out of Capella, I think that changes. I think that goes up. I think it very easily can go up to 30. I think Capella is one of the best GPP options on the slate. Yes, I do. He's going to be low owned. He's going to be very low owned, probably like in the 20s on a 2-game slate. And if that's the case, I want a lot. We've seen many times, especially towards the end of the year. I don't know if he did it in the first round in that game 1, but he'll play 28 minutes and score 50 fantasy points. That's in his arsenal. And this is a smaller Golden State team, which is a reason why he probably didn't get a lot of run in the last game, which, again, that helps a guy like PJ Tucker probably get some more 5 minutes. But, yeah, I think Capella's fine, and because of that, if I like a little bit more Capella, I think that Nene might only see 12 minutes today. But here's the thing. Nene playing 14 minutes and getting 18 fantasy points, that's a little bit outproducing, I'd say. That's like, 1.2 fantasy points a minute? I think that's a little bit outproducing. 1.25, whatever that might be, 1.15. So, yeah, I don't want any Nene. If you're playing FanDuel, I think he's like 3,700. You could drop him, sure, depending on what the position is there and if it's needed, if it's deep or not. I don't really want any. What do you think about Rozier as a sneaky play? I feel most will go to Mirotic or Ersin, of course. I don't think most will go to Ersin or Mirotic. They might be highly owned because it's a 2-game slate, but I don't think most will go there, and I think Rozier is a bad play. Rozier had his game last game, right? Scoring 27 fantasy points. If he comes back out again and becomes super efficient, then okay, fine. We're just getting really bad variance, and he's just not hitting regression. But he's been playing 18 to 20 minutes a game so far now in 5 playoff games. That was the only one, and he was doing that in the regular season, right? Backing up Kyrie when Kyrie was actually playing. That was like his most efficient game in, I don't know, his past 15 to 20 back or starts coming off the bench. So he was just extremely efficient. He was averaging what? He played like, I think 20 minutes and scored 27 fantasy points. So he was averaging like 1.4 fantasy points a minute. He's not going to do that. Again, I don't know if he played in that blowout run. I couldn't get Popcorn Machine to work. If he did, that's an extra 3 minutes where he is the main guy, so he can be super effective. Rozier, sure. I mean, you could throw him in there. Anything. Look, on a 2-game slate today, if you want to win a tournament and you want to win it without like a chalky build and split it with 30 guys, you're going to have some kind of sketchy or some kind of unique lineup or just random player like a Rozier. Like the guy who won the other night, I think he had both Kyrie and Rozier in. How many people are going to play both of them, right? A starting point guard and his backup when his backup hasn't been efficient. Usually if one goes off, the other one gets hurt, unless there's a blowout, which nobody projected. So weird things have to happen. I just think that it's almost point chasing, though, since he just went off in the last game, and I don't see that happening again. Okay. What do you think about a Warrior stack on Yahoo? What's going on, CNG Core? So I don't really play. I played Yahoo during NFL season a ton, right? I played a little bit of NBA when they had their rake-free contests. I don't really play much Yahoo, so like I don't know their prices, but a Warrior stack is fine. Most of the time on bigger slates, KD and Steph, you're going to get negative correlation there, and you most nights will, even on a 2-game slate. So I think it's fine to go to a Warrior stack there. If you're going to go a Warrior stack, you probably want to run it back with Harden, I don't know. I think that a stack, which is very sneaky today, would be a Capella, Harden, Paul. Harden and Paul, people don't want to stack in general. You throw Capella in there, who nobody wants to play today. That's very sneaky. You run back that Harden, Paul, and Capella stack with anything on Golden State. Run it back with, if you want the cheaper option, Iguodala. I would probably go to a guy like Draymond who should start at the 5 again, and he's super cheap. If you can get up to a KD, or even a KD and a Draymond, you want a game stack. That is very attractive to me. Mookie Betts, solo bomb. I didn't play any baseball today. I had Mookie Betts yesterday. He did fine, solo bomb. Would it be crazy to fade Harden and Giannis and play Durant? To fade both? Yeah, I find it... I would be hard-pressed to think that tonight you don't need Harden or Giannis in a winning lineup. And that a lot of that weighs on Giannis, or a lot of that weighs on Harden. Like, I think that Harden's going to be needed tonight in a winning lineup. Look, if somebody scores 60 points in the slate, you need them. It would be rare, and I think it happened actually in the last slate. Harden scored 55 and wasn't needed, but I think that's very rare. You got guys off the bench like Terry Rozier scoring 27 or 28 points out of nowhere. So that's what helps that. But fading both of them, I think you can do it. It's a 2-game slate once again. Literally anything's on the table. There's so much variance here. But who else are you playing besides KD? I hope Kyrie Irving, because if you're only playing KD and Steph, that's kind of negatively correlated, and you're not getting any other really big upside, because if KD goes off and he scores 70 points tonight, and it's in regulation, not OT, it's very hard for me to see Steph dropping a 50-burger. So I think it's hard to see not needing one of them. I would want one of Giannis or Harden tonight, and I think both of them is a contrarian option. Sup, Sally? Harden hitting tonight with fouls. What's up, Michael Williams? Yeah, Harden, the foul thing, now they got this ref. I forget his name. Somebody can drop it in there. I'm having a blank here. But the guy who just has some bitterness with the Houston Rockets, you have Chris Paul doing the T technical thing to the official in the game when he got teed up. So, yeah, I think Harden might get some calls today, but I don't think it matters. Obviously, like, it would be nice if he could land and feel good about shooting his threes, and when he doesn't, he gets his extra free throws, especially if you're playing him. But he's James Harden, so I mean, if they still land in his path once or twice, and they don't call it, whatever, he's still gonna get his. What do we got? I'm considering Rozier because PG on FanDuel is so high, or point guard. There's no mid option, so I just dropped scoring for point guard. Yeah, Roz. Again, I don't really play outside of DraftKings too much, and that's mainly because like when I'm doing content, I want to just cover one site and put as much information as I can. I do projections for FanDuel, but I usually use my projections for DraftKings. And that's usually where I play. In playoffs, maybe I should look more into FanDuel since, a guy being late scratch doesn't affect you as much in the playoffs. But yeah, I think that's fine. If the position for you is to fade point guard today or just drop at point guard and then get a more expensive guy, I think that's fine. Like, who are you dealing with at point guard? A good amount of good guys today. Good amount of good guys. Wow. Chris Paul, right? Steph, right? Kyrie. And then Bledsoe. Bledsoe's not in the mid-tier. But either way, that's fine. Obviously, he has upside to score 20 fantasy points today in Rozier, and if he's a drop option, that's pretty fine. I think I would rather play Draymond than Horford today. I'm with that. I will probably be leaning there. No Thompson. No, Thompson is playing. I got Steph, Durant, Dre, Iggy, and Looney in one of my lineups. Damn, you got 5? I think 5 is too much personally from one team. Especially when you have Steph and Durant. Yeah, I think 5 is too much. But again, if this, you really need the game to go to OT. And if you have that lineup, I hope you have at least one Rocket, preferably two. But I think 5 is too much. What about Draymond? Yeah, Draymond is my. I bit my tongue earlier today. In terms of points per dollar, it went up, so it changed. It was Steph, then KD, then Draymond for me. Now it's KD, Steph, Draymond. But in terms of just price, and that's what points per dollar is, but price relative not only to their team, but the entire slate in that position, and the fact that you can put Draymond in the center spot, I love Draymond today. 6,600 is too cheap for a guy who in the playoffs is literally triple-double Draymond from 3 or 4 years ago. That's the effort and intensity he's putting out there if you watch these games. When Steph goes off, Durant does not, and vice versa. Don't play them together. Yeah, elephant. That's true. The far majority of the time, they're going to negatively correlate. Sure, there's a situation where they both go for 50, but if that's the case, you better be damn sure that, or you better best believe that Clay, Draymond, Iggy, they're not getting there. But I think most of the time you're playing the small percentages there if you play the both of them. Which again, on a 2-game slate, you need the small percentage type plays to win a tournament. Harden, Giannis, and Durant in a lineup. Yeah, Mike, or Scott Foster. Yep, thank you, Elfin. Yep, Roz, thank you. Yeah, Scott Foster. Harden, Giannis, and Durant in a lineup. I think it's Is that possible? That might be possible. I mean, I built a lineup earlier, and I was playing around, but you're going to get a lot of dust. Sterling Brown still game time decision. Could be crucial for minutes for Pat and Middleton. Yeah, definitely. Sterling Brown being a game time decision. Didn't really touch too much on it because I think he plays. He's been listed as probable since yesterday, although I believe he has an illness, right? Yeah, I have the injury dashboard. No, it's just a back. Okay, so that's actually interesting. A back injury is very sketchy. So, yeah, if he's out and you're going to get Pat Connaughton starting, yeah, fire that up. Also, keep an eye on Tony Snell, who should get elevated, I imagine, off the bench to the teens, if not the high teens in minutes. So that's a very sneaky, deep option on a slate like this. Tony Snell would become, and also probably actually no George Hill before Tony Snell. So that's where I'd go, actually. Tony Snell not seeing any minutes. So my favorite play if we get Sterling Brown out is not Pat Connaughton. It would become George Hill. Even if Connaughton's starting, it's still George Hill. Lower ownership. Pat Connaughton, though, should see probably 30 minutes, but I'd still take George Hill, who's, I believe, cheaper and lower ownership. But yeah, Connaughton becomes in play. He's just going to have very high ownership. No way that's possible. Maybe on DK. Yeah, I assume he's meaning DK. Load up on Austin Rivers if you want to stack all three of those big names. I agree. That's where you're probably going to get the 2K value from. Since Steph and KD negatively correlate with each other, would you put in CP3 or Kyrie? You're asking me if I would play CP3 or Kyrie today? Like, just pick one? It's Kyrie. But the price indicates that, right? It's $1,400 difference. But yeah, it's Kyrie for me. Hey, Sal, not much time to watch your full video, but can you summarize your interests on both slates on positions? Thanks. Love your videos. What's up, Kevin? So on both what? On both slates on positions? I imagine you mean, what do you mean by both slates in terms of FanDuel? It's going to be mainly just general, but more so speaking to, and I'm going to get off in about 3 minutes, but more so speaking to DraftKings. And yeah, I could do that. I could summarize them for sure. Let me just do that quickly. And let me answer a text. So, early interest in terms of what I'm looking at, and this is from this morning, but things have changed. All the expensive guys are interesting to me, right? And I guess it's now before lock, so I have to make some decisions on that. I can't just say they're all interesting because I can't play them all in one lineup. It's Harden. It's the obvious ones, at least. It's Harden and KD. Now, they're chalky. You're going to be like, oh, those are the chalk. That's fine. Yesterday, Kawhi was chalky. Yesterday, Jokic was Jokic. Yesterday, Jokic and Kawhi were chalky. And even Siakam. It's fine. You can play the chalky guys in the playoffs because they should be chalky. I like Harden. I like KD. That's where I'm building around in my higher entry dollar single entries. Higher dollar single entries is where I'm building around. But again, I like Giannis today. I'm just not getting into him a lot because I have KD projecting very similarly for $900 less. And on a 2-game slate, $900 gets me a lot more, especially when you're in the mid-tier and you get to go up from the mid-tier to that next tier. So I came away from the questions because I wanted to look at my early interest, but those are my two interests on the pay up spot, right? On the cheap end, it's still Mirotic. I'm still very interested in Mirotic. I'm very interested in Marcus Morris, PJ Tucker. Draw some interest. The other guys, if Sterling Brown is out, Pat Connaughton and George Hill become interesting. Ersan Ilyasova is still interesting at the bottom end in terms of value at 3,200. No interest in Austin Rivers for me today. Ranking the point guards out of Bledsoe, Paul, Steph, and Kyrie. Let's just rank them on point per dollar, and then we can kind of factor in ownership if you have questions on that. I rank it Steph, Kyrie, Paul, Bledsoe, in that order. And that's probably pretty obvious. But I like all of those point guards today. Point guard is where the position I like the most today is point guard. I'm very low on center today, although I think Capella is a very nice GPP play. I'm just not getting much of him. Brook Lopez is the type of guy who's not going to get talked about today and could be in the teens in ownership. Terrible matchup, but I'm just not getting to that either. Al Horford, again, had a great matchup in the last one. He had the game of his life. I think he's going to get flooded with ownership, and he should. He's still cheap at 6,800 on a 2-game slate. Just not getting there much either. And then Draymond starting at center for the Warriors. I do like that, but just in terms of pure centers, I don't think it's a center slate for me. I think the guard position is clearly the loaded position. If you want to even move over to shooting guard, you have Harden. All right. Yes, DKR Fernando. Do you like Middleton in tonight's slate? Yes, I do. CNG Core, I do like Middleton. I feel Kyrie is safe fade for GPP on FanDuel. He's 9,800, which means he needs 48 for 5x. There's so many good guys on the Celtics that could get you that value for cheaper. I think that's fair. I think there's definitely value. I personally have Kyrie projected for around 47 points today, so I think that's pretty good. I just have KD projected for more. I have Harden projected for 15 to 16 points more. So when it comes down to trying to fit KD, Irving, and Harden, I'm having trouble doing that. So you have to make your decisions there. Steph, question mark. Steph is fine. If you're somebody not playing KD today, you should probably be playing Steph. It's as simple as that for me. Because if you don't think if you're not playing KD, which means then you don't think that he's going to get there or is going to be needed in a winning lineup, who do you think from the Warriors will be needed in the winning lineup? Sure, it could be Klay Thompson once out of every 90 days goes for 40 real points and scores 50 fantasy points. I'm not putting my money on that under that 1% or 3% chance that it happens tonight, whatever it is. So it's going to be Steph. It's just that simple. Keep in mind, this Boogie Cousins being out, Steph explosion game has not come yet. It's only been 3 games. So KD, though, elevated in the playoffs, has factored into that. Who do you prefer on the road, Mirotic or Ersan? Mirotic. Mirotic's better point per minute, and looking into it, and somebody notified me in the comments that his 21 minutes in the last game, I believe, right? Did he play 20 or 21? I think it was 21. None of that included blowout run, which I don't know if he closes anyways. I doubt he does. I doubt they go with a big closing lineup. But 21 minutes is encouraging for a guy who's 3,500 and averages 1.1 fantasy points per minute. In this series, that likely drops. Al Horford, Marcus Morris, but what does it drop to? 1 at the lowest? Going to play 20 minutes on average. He's going to score you 20 fantasy points today. That's on average. So sure, he could score 15, 3,500. Doesn't kill you. That sucks, but doesn't kill you on a 2-game slate, especially if you're playing like a cash format. But he could score 25, and then he's probably needed. So I like Mirotic. And again, the same could be said about Ersan. It's pretty much what you feel better about there. And I feel better about Mirotic's minutes being a little bit more secure. They traded for this guy for a reason. If not to be in the starting lineup, it was to play significant minutes off the bench in the playoffs. And I think that that's going to trend up a little bit, probably 22-24 range when it's all said and done, whether it's this series or just in the playoffs in general for them. I'm dropping Sterling Brown. I hate to. I don't know if that's DFS, and I think that's fine. Some more home run, down calls, Carlos Santana, Fremel Reyes. Iggy or Clay? What are we saying, Iggy or Clay, for points per dollar or pure scoring? That's tough. I go Clay. Clay's going to get 6 more minutes, 7 more minutes. If we're talking pure scoring, if you're like, I could afford both, I need more points, it's going to be Clay. They go with the death lineup. Yeah, that's fine. Because I'm having trouble at the point guard. Okay. I am going to cancel this out, or not cancel this out. I'm going to be done. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I need dinner. I need some water. But I'm going to go finish up my lineups with these last 25 minutes or so. Thank you guys so much. This was fun. Peace out. I'm going to try and do more before locks. Let me know if somebody could drop in the comments before they leave. What was the highest that you saw in terms of just overall people in this chat? Maybe I can find that actually if I go to live stream. Yeah, no problem, Raz. Have fun. Have fun, everybody, tonight. Appreciate it. Peace out, gang. Peace out. 22 people. Nice.